while researching the work from Dr. Chandra Vikramasinghe, Professor Vikramasinghe, who is a British Sri Lankan astrobiologist, primarily more on the side of astronomy, knows a fair bit about biology, has worked with Fred Hoyle. I think all of the, before I should begin, I guess, let me say I am not an astrophysicist or a astrobiologist or a biologist even. I'm not even a trained engineer. And that's one thing. And the other thing I want to share is I think every idea should be evaluated based on merit. And whatever Fred Hoyle's theories may be with regards to his criticism for the Big Bang Theory, um, as well as other theories, even like Dr. Vikramasinghe's theories with regards to, cephalopods like octopus being some kind of a, having some kind of an extraterrestrial origin over a longer time scale. I think each one of these ideas should be evaluated based on evidence, and we should not jump to conclusions just disregarding any one of these ideas. So those are two things I want to share, but this one is not like this video is not so much about what I just shared. I personally do think I must say that I personally do sense that considering the enormous number of planets that we're just looking at in this galaxy alone, I would think that the probability that life is something that is of terrestrial origin, I would think that probability is almost zero. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not I'm not disregarding the theory of evolution. Uh, I am not. Uh, I am just putting the question. I'm not buying. Like I'm not saying that there's something to the theory of intelligent design. I'm not saying all those things. I'm just like I made one of my previous videos. I kind of drew a map where I was showcasing that I think there's a bacterial sphere in the galaxy, if not the universe at large. Now, I don't know when this all started and how it all started. Um, I think we still have questions, and as it relates to life making a leap from inert matter to amino acids and then nucleotides and then DNA. I don't, we don't really like, there's theories. I'm not sure how we've modeled this in the labs. Dr. Carl Sagan used to show some giant, like kind of like structures, glass structures, whereby you had the amino acids and you were pumping electricity through them. So I don't really know what the outcome of these experiments has been, but if somebody has seen conclusive evidence with regards to like doing something with amino acids to make them into nucleotides, please do bring it to my attention. Now, that being said, that this is not the, again, like I said, this is not a, I'm not agreeing with a lot of the claims made by Dr. Chandra, Dr. Vikramasinghe or Fred Hoyle. I'm not disagreeing or agreeing with them. And I'm not like, my comments should not be construed to saying that I am favoring one theory versus or something else. And I'm also very uneducated on the biology side of things, extremely uneducated. Again, all of this being said, I do think that when it comes to bacteria, viruses, I'm talking about simpler life form. It may turn out the bacteria are way more intelligent than us, and we are just a vessel for carrying out the work that, like let's think about it this way: the most successful life form on this planet right now are probably bacteria, right? Viruses, like I don't know, like viruses, it seems like they have a propensity to exhaust their host, and then I don't even know if you would categorize that as life. I would say viruses are this is an uneducated perspective, but I'd say viruses are somewhere in the middle. They're not alive, they're not dead. They're somewhere in the middle, and they only seek to make copies of themselves. The way I understand it, they inject themselves in a cell or maybe bacteria, and once they infiltrate that organism, all they would seek to do is replicate, right? Now, so anyway, so this is not a conversation about like what I just stated. What I actually started looking into again was exoplanets. So this video at this 6-ish minute mark, I think I restarted the video a couple of times, around the 5-minute mark maybe, is about exoplanets. And my understanding was of exoplanets was that it has to be something that is Earth-like, but turns out that's not the case. It simply is a planet outside of the solar system, right? So that's one new thing I kind of stumbled upon again. I guess I gotta have to relearn that fact every time. But that's one thing I noticed. I learned a couple other things. Like it looks like most of the exoplanets that have been found so far have been through the TESS mission and primarily Kepler, and then now it's TESS. And this was like so. Anyway, I think this was 2016. Yeah, 2016 was a really good year for searching exoplanets. It looks like we found tons and tons of exoplanets in that year, and then the subsequent years. I don't know, like maybe it has to do with the fact that we have found most of the exoplanets in the real state that the telescopes were looking at. Yeah, that would be my assumption here. But in the subsequent years, the numbers have not been in the domain of 1500 or 1538. They've been lesser, but it's still a steady surge. You know, the numbers are kind of treading along nicely. And most of the discovery is based on the transit mechanism, which is basically when you have there's a description, there's actually a really good, oh no, there was a really good GIF here. I forget where it was, as you can tell. I'm running on no sleep here, and I cannot find that GIF. Transit. Why is it not working? Wait, anyways, let's go back here. I have no idea why this is not working. There's an actual GIF. Let me find it. Hold on, give me 1 second. That's really odd. Anyways, so maybe this is the one. So that's a planet going in front of the sun. As light is measured, when the telescope's focused on the sun, you see light coming in, right? But if you're measuring the light coming in from the sun and the pattern looks something like this, right? Something like when so that indicates that there's some kind of a planetary body in front of the sun. And I'm not sure what how do scientists yeah, well, it has to be a planet, right? So it cannot be unless it's like a Dyson structure or something. but there's some kind of a body that's causing that kind of a behavior. So that is what transit is. I can't again find that actual GIF, but that one does justice. Or that one helps explain. The reason why I'm talking about it is again to go back to this image, and if you notice, then the transit is the primary means through which exoplanets are found. And on number 2, you have radial. And radial has to do with, let's refresh my memory as well. Radial has more to do with the Doppler spectroscopy. And what this means is that as a planetary body is going in orbit around its sun, it basically wobbles the stellar mass. And this is what's going on in the GIF on the right-hand side. At this point, we can pick up the pace a little bit, even though I feel like I need more coffee, but I think I'm over my capacity with 2.5 cups per day. Anyway, so basically this is the wobble, right? So, and how this really works, I didn't go into a lot of detail, but Doppler spectroscopy, you can think of it as the shifting of the wavelength. So I believe as a star system is moving towards us, actually, I'm going to read it from here. When a star moves towards the Earth, its spectrum is blue shifted. And on the other hand, it is red shifted when it's moving away from us. And by analyzing the spectral shifts, you can deduce the gravitational influence that the exoplanet is having on the host star. All right. And another way you can think about Doppler spectroscopy is when you have you have an ambulance, right? So there's I forget which page it's on, but if I go to, let's try to go to Doppler shift. I think that's where, yeah. So this is the one. So if you can think of the change of wavelength by the relative motion of an object moving towards you, and as a, like say an ambulance or something like that is moving towards you, the pitch is going to be higher. So it's going to seem louder, right? The higher pitch, like it kind of goes like it's close to you, and then it kind of starts fading away. So that's what's happening in terms of sound. So that's what the Doppler effect really is. I'm not going to play the sound here, but and I, again, like I said, I didn't go into a lot of detail here, but moving close to you would entail that there's a redshift again, and moving away, if you were again measuring light coming from a star, then the star moving towards Earth would be a blue shift, sorry. And if the star is moving away from Earth, then that would be a redshift. So you can measure these perturbations, if I'm saying the word right, and we're able to figure out what kind of exoplanets are actually going around the star. So anyways, so these are some of the mechanisms that have been implemented, and it looks like transit's working by and large. Radial's coming in second when it comes to the search for these exoplanets. Then there are other mechanisms such as microlensing and direct imaging that are also showing some results. And then there's this aspect called timing, which looks like there were some results here back in 2014. But this is what the landscape looking like right now, with mostly transit taking the lead here and radial coming in second, and then everything else. I didn't actually look into the other mechanisms, so I can't speak too much about them. Next one I wanted to share was the following segment from the Kepler Space Telescope's page on Wikipedia. Actually, this is the direct link. So if you, actually, let me close this and let me open this up again. So if I click on this link, then it takes you to the confirmed exoplanet section for the Kepler spacecraft, right? But hold on, 530506. No, 530. Oh, actually, that's not the confirmed. I don't know why I put confirmed there, but I guess I must have been looking at confirmed. But the main page for the Kepler Space Telescope highlights that Kepler has observed almost 500,000, more than 500,000 stars. And out of the 500,000 stars detected, off 500,000 stars that is observed, 2,662 exoplanets have been found going around these star systems, right? So then what I did was I just plugged the numbers into Wolfram Alpha, really basic, like junior high stuff. And it looks like a 0.5% like ratio, contingent on the hypothesis that you have X number of stars and Y number of exoplanets are found to be going around these stars. So that comes to about a, based on the data we've collected through Kepler at the very least. I didn't do this for TESS, like I said, because it looks like Kepler and TESS are the two primary mechanisms through which exoplanets have been located to date, right? But this is looking to be about like if we take this, maybe we make some tweak, maybe like somebody finds a clever way of finding more exoplanets. Maybe you make a tweak in the algorithm. Maybe there's patterns in the data set that we haven't gleaned. So it could be that the rate is actually much higher. But based on the data we've collected right now, and this could be lower, this could be more, like I said, but it looks like about 0.5% ratio. You sample this many stellar masses, and 0.5% of that sampling size seems to have planets around them, right? Now it could be that the same kind of they're different kind of conditions required in order to have planets going around the star system. And who knows, that may be based on the kind of conditions that exist in the different parts of the galaxy. I think Anton Petrov was talking about this. He was talking about metallicity, something to do with, if I'm saying it right, metallicity. I think that I'm saying it right. And I think he was saying if this was a supermassive black hole and this was the galaxy, but there are certain portions of the galaxy that have the right conditions for planets to form around the stars. And I think I could be wrong. It has something to do with the metallicity. Anyways, so yeah, the actual one would be higher, could be lower. But basically what I did was I just came up with the simple sampling. So the number of stars that are hypothesized to be in the Milky Way are in the range of 100 billion to 400 billion. So if we go with that 0.5% ratio, then we could look at, we're potentially looking at this many exoplanets in this Milky Way alone, right? Anywhere from half a billion to 2 billion. 500 million to 2 billion. That's a lot of exoplanets. 500 million to 2 billion, right? So if there are around 500 million to 2 billion exoplanets in the Milky Way alone, then the next question that I at least think of from my not so astrophysics perspective is, what is the composition of these I'm on the wrong page. This is where I was looking for. What is the composition of these exoplanets? How should we really classify them, right? And I guess that would depend on our overall technological state. But like I would think, I don't know where I think there is a Kardashev angle to this, and I often talk about that. So we are Kardashev scale 0.x right now. We are not exactly Kardashev scale 1, and we are not 0 either. Uh, so we're 0x because we are on our way towards harnessing energy falling on the sun. And I have already made my point that if we go from this to this, then it could actually be pretty bad. So we need to already start thinking of solar system. But anyway, so from a, and one other thing I've mentioned is that this definition, in my opinion, is not like it's not it doesn't like, I think we need some gradients. So 0.1 0.1a 0.1b, something like that, and then it's going to be 0.2. I don't know if it's getting too much details, but I think this would determine how this could potentially be leveraged one day. And obviously there's a huge ethics angle to this. Huge, right? Because if life is found, if life is found on these planets, then what must humans do? Then what will humans do? Or, cyborgs or superhumans, however humans evolve, right? What will the terrestrial life form do if we found life on these planets? Okay, so that's one angle, the Kardashev scale, and ethics. One doesn't really come before the other. I think at the very least, these two are extremely important. Now, right now, based on the kind of the technology we can anticipate, like booting up in the next, depends how it happens, right? Depends on how things mature in the next, what the actual rate of technological evolution is. But say we have the means to be able to send life from this planet. No, we gotta think about what I'm saying. I'm also saying we're gonna sell biological samples that can self-replicate on the other structure. Are we talking about self-assembling, like nanomachines, or are we talking about just standard sensors that we're thinking of in terms of the Breakthrough Starshot project? Chips, literally, actually, maybe this size, the size of a microchip. Or maybe a size of credit card, hoisted through solar sails, going towards the direction of one of the exoplanets, right? So, like, depends on the technology we're talking about in order to send stuff to our prime real estate. But I would think right now, because we are like somewhere here, this is the space we're kind of at right now. We're definitely not Kardashev scale 2, because we are not taking the steps in order to be able to harness the entire entire output of the stellar mass coming from the sun. But I would still think we're somewhere here, right? If this was the diagram, I would say we're like more so here, barely scraping the kind of this realm of Kardashev scale 2. Because we may be thinking of shields, we may be thinking of, not that I'm trying to influence that thought. I really think we would need some kind of structure against, I don't know what it's going to be, which shape and form it's going to take. But things like asteroid, like some kind of a means to be able to harness them, or just like destroy them, or like, I don't know what's going to happen. Same for coronal mass ejection. I think supernova again are, yeah, anyways, I think I've always spoken about that in the previous video, but I think we're somewhere here, right? So considering like existing technological state and what kind of pressures we actually face, that, it's going to be a combination of this plus this primarily, plus Well, technological adaptation would feed into the Kardashian scale. So that already the uh, the Kardashian model already encapsulates what kind of a technological evolution is being seen, right? So I think I've spoke too much about this. This these two will primarily determine what kind of real estate are we going to target. I would all of this definitely controls what kind of real estate we target. And if that were to be the case, let me see the picture. I would think it would be somewhere here, right? Because I'm going with a very uneducated guess here. I don't even know this, the data supporting this image, much about that. But this is how I would classify Earth, right? Orbital period. Uh, what is an orbital period? Oh, okay. Well, maybe not. Goodbye. Thank you, Siri. Yeah, so no, I don't know if you want. Depends, I guess, what kind of star it is, how, like what stage is it at. Depends on things like that. What kind of gravity exists on the exoplanet itself, and also, I guess, like what kind of a technological state we're at again, in terms of genetic engineering, amongst other things. Okay, so we're not really here. We're more so 365. So that looks like 500, 100, 200, so okay, so somewhere kind of like here, right? Somewhat rocky, a little bit of ocean. I don't know why they categorize lava wells here. I would hope this looks something like this, so we have a little bit of lava coming in. That's what we want, right? We want the conditions to be as close to Earth-like as possible. Again, considering existing state technology uh, that we have. So that would seem like, right, based on our technological evolution right now, the ideal real estate, which now puts the question of ethics front and center. Like we got to think about this much in advance, because we have to think about things like hygiene. Because if you say think of version 5 of Breakthrough Starshot, right? Starshot. I'm not going to say BS because that may sound bad. Uh, that's not intentional. But think of version 5.0 of Breakthrough Starshot, right? Not 55. And you've got, we've learned a lot from the first couple of missions, and we've made the probes hopefully hygienic. Uh, we're now seeing pictures come out back from these systems, and that's going to be akin to what's going on with Mars right now, because we've thought of the red planet for all of these decades. Like individuals like Dr. Robert Zubrin. I can think of. I haven't read the books by Dr. Robert Zubrin, but I would think if there's one individual that has done a lot to actually keep pushing towards seeing some kind of a human presence on Mars, then Dr. Robert Zubrin comes to the forefront of my mind. Realize the fact that there's a lot of other folks that have done the same, right? But Dr. Robert Zubrin probably is, I think that's the essence of his career. And so it has taken all this time for folks like Dr. Robert Zubrin and others to be the keeper of the vision. And now in the year 2021, the data Plus the images and video and the sounds we're seeing come back from Mars is really crisp. I don't think we've ever seen images like this before, unless you happen to be following High Rise. Shout out to the University of Arizona. High Rise has been putting some spectacular imagery for quite some time now. But yeah, the data just keeps getting better, right? So there will come a time. I don't know when this is going to be. This like it's going to be a couple of decades, but unless somebody can figure out a very clever way of beating or not having the speed of light impact the communications. Um, Maybe you send a probe, it takes 4.5 years to get there at the speed of light for less than 5 light years, let's put it that way. But instead of then the probe taking another 5 years to send the data back, you're looking at least a decade. That is if you can indeed make a vessel that can go at the speed of light. But maybe it doesn't have to be 10 years. Maybe it was just 5 years for the first couple of these sentinels or probes, because it could send some kind of a, maybe it can do some quantum communication. I don't know. This is very hypothetical in this case, because I don't know any technology that can do instantaneous communications over light distances. I have not seen anything to that effect personally. So, but yeah, maybe we will see breakthroughs like that, right? However that works. But I would think for starters, that would be kind of like the realm we're looking at. Now, this may end this may end up being incorrect, like I said, because there may be other real estate somewhere in the other category, which may be actually quite beneficial to us in our existing evolutionary state. Let's put it that way, right? So these are the set of talks, and to go back to the numbers, I've already saved that, so I can clear this out. Yeah, we're looking at a lot of exoplanets, and the question now again is, what are we going to do next? What are we going to do next? How many of these exoplanets are we going to explore, and how hygienically can we do this? And yeah, this is the question. I personally sense that we're going to find life all over the galaxy. We're actually going to find life, I predict, in the solar system. There's going to be bacterial colonies, probably on Mars, maybe in some caves, shielded from all the radiation and the cold temperatures and whatnot. Or maybe it has adapted and is living out in the open, right? Because there are bacteria on Earth that are somewhat resistant to certain levels of radiation. And we're gonna probably find more life in the oceans of Europa. The main mystery is, what was when did this all start, and how did life get seeded from one solar system to another, and how many of these solar systems are actually seeded, right? So I think the panspermia theory is very interesting. So I'm gonna draw an image, not to have the habitable zone planets influence your decision in the background, but say again, this is the black hole, and this is the galaxy, right? And I think we're talking about this was how much again? 100,000 light years, right? Yeah, this is 100,000 light years, and we're like somewhere here, right? Not drawn to scale in this case, because there could literally be hundreds of millions of stars in that dot alone if it was drawn to scale. Well, if we're somewhere here, and we know, based on what we can observe, that there is life on our planet, right? Could be we're just living in a simulation. But anyways, even like, right? So yeah, so it looks like no, there is life on our planet, right? So And as we start peering outside of our own solar system now, the question is, where else does life exist, right? And I personally feel that bacteria, viruses, and other life forms evolving on a single planet in a galaxy, that seems really like that statistically, that makes no sense to me. Statistically, right? I don't even know how to describe that. So I'm not going to revert back to Fred Hoyle, but statistically, if we're saying there is life, but 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 it's out of the 100 to 400 billion stars, out of the 100 to 400 billion stars, right? Stars, and stars may be in different stage of their evolution. Out of the 100 to 4 billion stars, I don't want to influence thinking, but not all of them are water worlds, right? We have, we have, we could have, again, we could have, like, this is a lower estimate, we could have 2 billion planets in this galaxy alone. We're looking at 2 billion planets in this galaxy alone. So if we're looking at 2 billion planets, the probability that life only exists in one, where'd my marker go? The probability that life only existed in one out of 2 billion planets in this this galaxy alone, the probability that life has only existed in one, or only exists in one out of 2 billion planets, I don't know, man. I'm not a statistician, but that makes no sense to me. How could life only evolve on a single planet out of 2 billion planets in this? I think the number is much higher. I don't think there are only 2 billion planets in this galaxy. We're looking at 100 billion star system, right? Let's do the math. This is going to be 0.5 again. What is 2 billion? 2 billion of 100 billion. That's a lower estimate. 100 billion. Okay. So 2%. Okay, so 2%. I can't do the math right now, but this makes no sense to me. How could life only evolve on a single planet out of at least 2 billion planets in the Milky Way? Right? Now, let's explore as a thought experiment at the very least, right? Just as a thought experiment. Let's say that the conditions, how do I do this again? Say the conditions for life to emerge and then evolve. I don't know what the galaxy looked like 4 billion years ago. Was it more condensed? Was it more like stretched out? I have no idea, right? If somebody has an answer to the question, let me know. But say, like I don't know how life went from inanimate. I think it's I'm not mixing them up. Inanimate. So how it went from rocks and chemicals and whatnot, right? Chemicals plus to nucleotides. Well, they say the first building block was amino acids, right? And the question is, did amino acid already exist and it comes to the foundational building blocks of the universe. I don't know the answer to that question, but the theory is that the amino acids, uh, lightning and amino acids combine together to form, I think, nucleotides, which then is the foundational. Why am I using a blue color? Then it's the foundational building block. I think RNA came first. I could be wrong about it, but yeah. But so the foundation building block of DNA. Again, I did the blue color, anyways. And then it went from. I'm just using, I guess, blue and white interchangeably. Then it went from DNA to other things, right? Simpler life form, prokaryotic cells, prokaryotic cells, and then, but that happened over a much longer stretch of time. Life going from prokaryotic cells to eukaryotic cells is something that took an enormously long time on Earth, right? But however this happened, what if this did not happen on Earth primarily? What if, just as a thought experiment, what if this happened some other cluster of the galaxy? In our galaxy, maybe another galaxy, who knows, right? And then somehow these creatures, the bacteria, they figured out a way to burrow themselves in rocks, right? And survive and live in cosmic dust or something like that. And you have like entire colonies of these beings. I think even if it's a thought experiment, I think it's a very important question. I'll come to that in a second. But what if whatever has happened here, from a perspective of evolution, was not native or specific to Earth? What if this happened in another part of the galaxy? I don't really know where. Maybe it happened in this sector, maybe here. Maybe it happened in the fringe. I don't know, right? And then these rocks, the dust were tumbling. They get propelled because some star went supernova and like it decimated a planet in its path. That planet turned into a gazillion shards or pieces, and they were traveling to other directions. And it may have taken many light years. How many light years? Maybe hundreds of light years, hundreds, right? Maybe more. But is it possible that these beings, the simpler beings, could survive natively on these rocks? Well, I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know. 100 light years seems like an enormously long time. Let's convert 100 light years to regular years. Yeah, it's going to be a big number. I didn't ask the right question, because I'm asking it to convert a distance into regular years. If it takes 100 light years if it takes 100 years for light to travel a distance, what is it in regular years? So 30.66 parsecs, convert 30.66 parsecs to regular years. Let's see if that works. Because parsec is the actual distance that life covers in that time frame, right? So 9.410 raised to the power 17 meters, or 10 to the 14 kilometers. So 10 to the 14 would be 100 trillion. 100, that would be 900 trillion kilometers. So if it was 900, is that what I'm doing the math right? 900 trillion kilometers. Man, I wish I went to bed early. 900 trillion kilometers. I think That would be 900 trillion kilometers. 900 trillion kilometers at 20% the speed of light. Yeah, no, I'm not doing this math right, and I clearly need to be educated on uh, the cosmic distance side of things. But my point was, uh, I guess the simple question is, can life actually survive enormous distances for a very long time, a very long time, right? And uh, so that would be one angle to this. That we're saying that there's no directed there's no directed like basically stuff happening on its own, right? So stuff is colliding, stuff is exploding, and stuff is getting ejected all over the place, and everything's getting seeded by everything else around the galaxy. And like Dr. Vikramasinghe has hypothesized that if that ought to be categorized as true, then there could be colonies of different kinds of bacteria all over the galaxy. I don't know, the distances are immense, so that's one thing, right? The other theory is a little out there, but let's erase some of this stuff. Actually, let's keep that because that looks like we would need that. The other theory is that instead of actually going willy-nilly around the galaxy, around the galaxy, around the galaxy, right? This, however this happened, say this didn't happen on Earth first. Did not happen. It happened in another cluster of the galaxy, somewhere native to this region. We are here. This is really just for the purpose of illustration because it takes us 280 million years, something like that. Million. If we were here, for us to kind of go around and come back to exact spot, something like that, it would take 280 million years to do one circle around the galaxy, which I've like highlighted in the past. So dinosaurs got wiped out 66 million years ago. And I think we're going counterclockwise, so I'm drawing it the other way. So actually dinosaurs were here, not here, here, 66 million years ago. That's where the dinosaurs were. And now we are somewhere here, right? So 66 million years have passed, but it just goes to show the enormity of this galaxy by itself. But anyway, so come back to this thought experiment. Suppose life did not originate in the cluster that is native to Earth. It happened somewhere else. But now we are exploring something that is in the domain of directed panspermia. So for whatever reason, right? Maybe advanced aliens wanted to encode information in DNA. They want to actually encode information in DNA. As Dr. Vikramasinghe has hypothesized, actually, I'm reading one of his research papers. This is how this series of thoughts actually triggered, because the paper that I'm reading right now is titled, I have a whole bunch of thoughts about how you're going to go communicating with simpler life form, just building up on a series of other thoughts. It's definitely in the domains of abstract thinking, but where was I? Today. Anyways, the research paper is basically focused on shifting SETI's focus more so from radio communication to something along the lines of if advanced species that exist, they probably want to encode information in bacteria or DNA because of a variety of reasons. And I haven't read the whole research paper, so I won't talk too much about it. But just going through the research paper kickstarted all these thoughts. So, anyways, to go back to the thought experiment that I was on, what if life that we see it on Earth in a variety of different, I guess, forms, actually was native to another part of the galaxy, and then you had things in the domain of, I'm gonna write this out here. Directed, is it working? Yeah, but it is not, so it's not showing directed pans. So this is not just regular panspermia, it is, the problem is once you write it, you can't move it. And I cannot undo this. Anyway, it's barely readable, but if you squint your eyes, you will see it. Directed from panspermia. There we go. Solution to every problem. If you squint your eyes, you'll see the words directed panspermia. So what if it wasn't just, again, you know, I'm repeating myself, but what if there were other species that were sending genetic code into different parts of the galaxy? What if that is still going on today? What if, right? If you have the possibility of at least 2 billion planets in this galaxy, and say, this is not becoming very low. What is, let's go with this lower percentage, 0.5% of 2 billion. Be like 10 million. 0.5% 2 billion. If that was the number of say intelligent life, right? Not communicating, but intelligent. 0.5% of 2 billion. So 2 billion planets, and 0.5% of them have some intelligent life in the galaxy. That would stand at 10 million. So if, let's do a really small number of 10 million. So 0.1% of 10 million. Actually, you know what? I'm going to choose an even really low number, 0.01% of 10 million. Okay, so if we go with 0.01%, I don't know if this is very readable. I'm just going to move it up, down a little bit. If we go with 0.01% of 10 million, and that's what we hypothesize being the number of intelligent species that may be available, not necessarily civilizations. It could be hunter-gatherer societies, could be another different stage with all the technological evolution. But if we go with that number, and if we take 0.01% of that, then we come with at least 1,000 species that are able to spread their genetic code throughout the galaxy. And if I drop that number even lower, then that becomes 100. If we go with 0.001% of 10 million, then we're looking at 100 species across the galaxy that have the means and ability and the desire, I guess, to seed their code, their life, the code of their life, as it is, or maybe engineered throughout the galaxy. So that is, again, in the domain of directed panspermia. So the question is, now we flip the model. We flip the model, and over here I drew. Let me save this first. We flipped the model, and I sound like Sal Khan from Khan Academy. Unintentional. Please, I don't think so. So now is the question of ethics. Ethics, as these beings are doing what we may contemplate doing in the foreseeable next couple of decades. The question is, what if some beings, some species have already done this millions of years ago? Millions of years ago, they have already sent code, genetic code in the different parts of the galaxy, seeding the galaxy with their imprint. Who knows whether it's encoded in that code? But what if whatever we see around us is a cornucopia? Actually, what does that one mean? What does cornucopia means? An abundant supply of good things of a specified kind. What does potpourri means? That's not what I asked. What does potpourri mean? What does potpourri mean? Not working, man. Uh, thanks, Siri. Goodbye. Okay. Let's use a simple word. It's a combination. So the combination that we see on life, it could be a mix and match of genetic code from a variety of different factors. I'm just using a circle to denote where that thing may come up, right? So the life may have been mixing and matching from the many different parts of the galaxy, right? Now, how could we test this theory? I have no idea. What kind of experiment would you conduct in order to be able to verify something like this? I would think one of the first tests that I'd want to do is to map the genome of every single creature on this planet, right? Every single creature. And this would mean birds in random order of different kinds, fishes, octopi. What's the plural? Octopus or octopi? Birds, fishes, octopi, humans, bacteria of different kinds, viruses of different kinds, slime mold, fungi, plus other life forms, shellfish, I don't like, there's tons of life forms, diatoms. Plants and trees, how could we forget? Flora, fauna, bacteria, flora of all kinds, and fauna, bacteria, we've already got it in here, right? What is fauna? What does fauna mean? What does fauna mean? What does fauna mean? Thank you so much. Bye now. Close. Bye. Bye. Yeah, I would map every single creature and then see what kind of patterns exist between these creatures. What kind of patterns exist? What, like, they say the potato is X% similar to the horse, X% similar. There's a potato. That's a really bad potato. More like a potato now, I guess. It's kind of crumbly. So the potato is X% similar to a horse, right? That looks more like a dog, but imagine that was a horse. So there's some genes that a potato and a horse shares, and that's X%. And when you compare a horse with a human, that number jumps up to 70%, something like that. Let's check it again. How much of our DNA do we share with potatoes? I don't know if it's 50%, but how much of our DNA do we share with horses? Cats, cattle, and mice. Hmm. It's a big number. I know with chimpanzees is like 99%, some crazy number. Well, with horses, like it's um, I think it's definitely in the higher double digits. Could be wrong. Now we share this much DNA with other creatures, right? But the thing is, how does this all fit in a grander scheme of things, right? Grander scheme of things. So my question is, let me actually, can you show me results? Could could you please show me results of Dr. Craig Quenter's quote, "There is no tree of life"? Now, I don't want to go with my confirmation bias and click on the results that meet what I want to maybe want to see. I don't know, right, what I want to see. But is there a tree of life? Can you show me search results for tree of life? Well, let's bring up this image from Khan Academy or the article. I'm hoping Khan Academy have done their due diligence. Hey, I'm already a donor. Oh, that's interesting. Miller-Urey experiment. So this was done in the lab. But again, so like if this is proven in the lab, then my question is, what is stopping this from happening on another planet? At least another planet in this galaxy. We're not even branching out from the galaxy yet. That's what I was thinking. Self-replicating RNA, DNA, and RNA. When did life appear? Fossil. Building blocks. Building blocks of polymers. The genes, metabolism, early cells. Ah, organic molecules from outer space. Oh, that came from Mars. That's crazy. Organic molecules with multiple ring structures. Hmm. Yeah, but I'm looking for the tree of life, right? So my question is, if there is a tree of life. And I don't know the answer to that question because I don't know how much of the DNA maps back, because it doesn't look like there was a common ancestor for all of the life on Earth. Somebody who has a really good understanding of genetics could maybe help answer that question. I like somebody like Dr. Craig Venter or another geneticist, because my understanding of genetics is non-existent. But my question is, how does this all map back? If life was purely a terrestrial, if life was purely a terrestrial phenomena, T represents terrestrial, then the probability is higher that there is some kind of a tree of life. You have like a common base of life forms, and then well, everything emerges from there, right? Flora, fauna, bacteria, archaea, and the infinite, like the huge spectrum, the variety that we observe today, which is it's not well, it's getting wiped out. And this may represent only whatever we see right now may only be maybe like 1%, 1% or less. That's getting a little untidy. This may be less than 1% of all the life that has existed on this earth. But that's one side, right? If life is purely a terrestrial phenomena, then this increases the possibility that there is a common tree of life, common tree of life, right? On the other hand, if life is not a purely a terrestrial phenomenon, purely terrestrial, then there must be traces. There must be traces. It looks like life on this planet is DNA based. There could be non-DNA based life out there. I have no idea what that's going to look like, right? But if life is not entirely terrestrial of nature, and this is a huge spectrum, like we got to appreciate, what are we talking about? Bacteria, cephalopods, mole rats, humans, different kinds of humans, or we're talking about, maybe not humans, but humans look like all the same to me. Like, what are we talking about here, right? But if life indeed is not of a purely terrestrial origin, then traces of our DNA may have come at least from somewhere else in the galaxy, from the galaxy. The question is, what was the mechanism? What was the mechanism? What was the mechanism? It was panspermia. Was it directed panspermia? Was it unleashed through probes that could travel x the speed of light? Or did somebody open up a little wormhole and send out a whole bunch of probes in a particular cluster of the galaxy? Did some like vehicle like decided to leave their their genetic code behind for whatever purpose? I I think this is a serious question worth serious scientific exploration, and the only way we can, I think, explore these questions is through studying other planets and other habitats in a lot more detail. It's not just planets, but maybe planets, the life within them, maybe dust clouds. Dr. Vikramasinghe was saying that the Lagrangian points, as I say, that could be a good real estate for bacteria that could live here. If they have some water vapor there, maybe then they have some things that they could settle on top of. other rocks like asteroid and comets. Asteroid and comets. It's hard to conceive that there could be some kind of a life form living inside the, whoops, something origin. Who knows? Maybe something living inside on the surface of the sun. It seems like we haven't been monitoring it for a couple of years. We haven't seen, unless it's really small, right? So I don't know. I'm not gonna explore that. Anyways, these are my set of thoughts on the my intuition, which is very uneducated, is that it seems very improbable, again, that you have 200 billion planets in the galaxy and life only evolved in this one tiny, like, Carl Sagan called it the pale blue dot. Yeah, one pale blue dot here, one amongst the hundreds of billions, one pale blue dot, and life only evolved here. And that is it. That is it. Highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. But this is the start of the conversation. This is indeed scientifically proven down the road. Well, what are the implications? What are the implications? What are the implications of something like this? How prevalent is life throughout the galaxy? How prevalent is this, right? How prevalent is this? Is there life all throughout the galaxy? And I'm not talking about Star Trek kind of life. That may very well be the case. I'm talking about bacteria, viruses, right? If indeed life is all throughout the galaxy, then how does this impact us, right? How does this impact us? How does it impact us? Are scientists like Dr. Vikramasinghe right? Right? Vikramasinghe, right? Singhe. Vikrama, Singhe. I think that's how you say it. She's right here. Chandra Vikramas, Singhe. Yeah. Are they right? Are they right? Do we have a bacteriosphere? It's called bacteriosphere. I'm all over the place right now. Oops. Bacteriosphere. Squint your eyes in order to be able to see that word. Is there a bacteriosphere all over the place? Right? If there is that bacteriosphere talking amongst each other? Is that talking amongst each other? So it's an interesting thought. I don't know what true. Obviously, I'm not an astronomer, astrobiologist, or a biologist at that. But if there's any truth to this hypothesis, then the implications, that looks like an ominous kind of implication. That's not intentional, but the implications are profound, 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 because we now have a bacteriosphere, at least on the scale of the galaxy. And if this is directed, it is non-directed, if it's mix of both, how old is it? What kind of life are we talking about, at least in the realm of DNA-based life? How does it all interact? Is Earth in a perpetual state of defense, whereby stuff's falling from the skies, in our oceans, on the land, in our forests, in open spaces, and gazillions of armies of bacteria and whatnot are going to battle every day, pretty much. Like, we are completely oblivious to what may be happening. For us, the bacteria, largely speaking, would consider us to be something that they've co-evolved with for billions of years, not 100 million years in this case, billion to the B, right? So most of the bacteria and like our cellular structures have learned to exist peacefully, for lack of a better word, unless you ingest the bacteria that you're not supposed to ingest. Like when a fly sits on something and it maybe lays eggs there, and that stuff's been sitting there for like 4 hours, let's say, and you eat that, you don't have immunity, or you don't have the your body's defense system doesn't have, in most cases, the immunity against that. So your white blood cells are then going to go into a stage of warfare, basically, against that foreign entry that has just entered. How this all works is a huge mystery to me. Even right now, you are breathing particles, right? They may not be as big, but you're breathing in dust particles, and an army of white blood cells are going and invading these particles that may be somewhere in your breathing canal, maybe maybe they've entered the lungs. I don't know if this is a good example of lungs. Actually, surprisingly, that's not a bad. But you know, an army of white blood cells are going and protecting you from stuff that is going in your body that should not be there, right? This is all happening through the evolutionary process, right? So by and large, what I'm saying is we have co-evolved with these viruses and bacteria. And most of these, because we have so much more bacteria in our body, bacteria, how do I represent that? You have more bacteria in the body versus number of cells. You have like some 80 trillion cells to 100 trillion cells, depends on the size of the body, I guess. So you have 100 trillion to the T now, 100 trillion cells. You have more bacteria, maybe a lot more bacteria for the number of cells. So it's a proof that we've coexisted with bacteria for a long time, at least bacteria the way we understand it, right? But the thing is, if stuff is indeed coming from some, I'm not saying Kepler, I don't want to influence that. Just ignore the image in the background. I should have said that many times. But now this is a brand new image. But actually, it looks like I'm influencing this. But if stuff was coming from another part of the galaxy, and the bacteria on Earth, by and large, doesn't like it, what happens then? What happens in that situation? I think that's a good question. I think that's a question worth investigating. Now, how would you investigate something like this? I have no idea. I didn't think about this in a lot of detail because I've just been absorbing the content from Dr. Vikramasinghe. But I think you would need some kind of a self-replicating structure. And I don't know how you'd make this hygienic. So if this is Earth, right? This is Earth, not drawn to scale. And this is the ISS, right? Again, not drawn to scale. Then you would need, like, I don't know where you'd put this, maybe on the ISS, maybe somewhere else. But you need like at least one. And you would need like a initial like a maiden space kind of that's an actual company, by the way, maiden space. You would need a facility that can first go in space and like it basically sanitizes itself. I don't know how it's going to do that. It's going to fire it, like, you know, it's going to start a fiery ball or something that it's going to engulf itself in. I don't know how are you gonna make it hygienic, like 100%, because there may still be some remnants of bacteria on that thing, because they found like bacteria on the ISS after 3 years. 3 years, it was outside. It was outside the ISS. It was growing there for 3 years. That's unreal. If I understand that correctly, I don't know if it was outside or inside, but something survived in that harsh environment for 3 years. I'm not talking about water bears or tardigrades. I'm talking about bacteria, right? So I don't know how you're gonna make it hygienically like sound, but you need that one construct, and then that thing is gonna then ingest materials and make another copy of itself. The question is the materials that you feed this thing. Now the material you're feeding this thing some material, right? What is the guarantee that the materials you are feeding this thing are, you can ignore this here. I was going to note something here. What is the guarantee that the material that you're feeding this structure that self-replicated itself is free of bacteria? What is the guarantee? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how you test something like this. But that would be like, so what, like, how would this thing, again, I don't know. I'm thinking, and this should really be like a black color in the background, white, something, because it looks like I'm influencing thoughts. That's not my intention. But I think you would need like some kind of a global genome database, right? If it exists, uh, you would need a global genome database, and then once you have these sequencers, so sequencing costs would have to drop a fair bit, and the machines would have to get miniaturized. I'm thinking, unless you want to actually send really large machines in space and run them. I don't know how that's all going to work. I don't know anything about what I'm talking about, but basically you would have the things being sequenced in space, and it finds items and it maps it back to a genome database. And I would think something like that is what's going to be needed in order to be able to verify whether that is actually native to this part of the world or not. Now the question now a question arises. Right? Let me just clear this out. The question arises, and the question is, now if this is Earth again, right? And these dots that I'm about to make, if these represent, this is a different image. This is LEO, right? LEO. And this is geosynchronous orbit, right? And then there are different orbits. I don't know what's past the geosynchronous orbits. Well, we have like a lot of different dimensions. I remember we have a lot of satellites floating in these real estate. And my question is, has this region now become bacterially active? Bacterially active, right? Is there any way we can test this? Because we have a lot of human-made devices floating in these regions. Now, the probability that something like I've mentioned could happen is very low to almost non-existent. I would think, right? I would think it's very low, because for this life to thrive, it's not getting the right conditions. First of all, the temperatures have these huge variances. Could get super hot, right? Or super cold, right? Then there's this is the same thing, super hot and cold. Actually, this is sub point temperature, then sub point, and then you have radiation, right? Radiation coming directly from the sun, potentially, because this may not be the path of the ozone anymore, or the atmosphere in general. And third one is lack of water resources. No water, lack of nutrients. There's no nutrients, right? There's no nutrients. So basically the conditions are not ideal for the bacteria to like multiply, right? So even if there's a bacterial colony of sorts that may be active in the space, the numbers may be quite insignificant. I guess I'm exploring the theme of hygiene. Like, what's the hygiene factor? That's what I'm really trying to understand. like how can we be absolutely sure that there's no bacteria of terrestrial region in the region where we want these probes or these devices to be active? That's the primary question. I overall I think they're the kind of thoughts that individuals like Dr. Vikramasinghe are bringing to the table, I think from my very uneducated perspective, warrant attention. Because if these theories have truth to them, that the implications could be profound. And we would pretty much have to rethink global healthcare and other things, right? And yeah, I have a whole series, like not a whole series, I have other series of thoughts on this topic. But I'm not like, I don't like it, like I may be saying stuff in this video which may make somebody say, which may make somebody laugh, which I don't have a problem with personally. I mean, I'd rather somebody engage with me and say, no, you're thinking about this really wrong, Adil, and this is the reason why. Because here's how evolution works. Here's how evolutionary biology works. Here's the recorded evidence. And here's how we've been able to replicate some of these experiments in the lab. And here are the results, right? I'm asking, I would be really open to something like that, first of all. I would be really open to something like that. I'm open to criticism and feedback. My question is very simple. If you have the possibility of 200 billion planets at the most, sorry. Let's backtrack. Anywhere from 500 million to 2 billion planets in this Milky Way, then the probability that life only exists on one out of these 2 billion planets in this Milky Way, in this galaxy, seems extremely low to me. The question is, what's happening in the domain of life going from one part of the galaxy to another, and how is that happening? And if it is happening, then what does that mean for us? The question is really simple, but like I said, substantial claims require evidence to back any claim. Really requires evidence for it to be backed and for it to be considered at the very least. So I guess the same would go for this theory. I don't know, like overall, like my sense, like I'm not I haven't spent like a lot of time absorbing Dr. Vikramasinghe's work, but how should I say this? I feel like his work may not be taken that seriously because like Fred Hoyle was a proponent of a theory that first of all went contrary to the Big Bang or something to that effect. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is for Dr. Vikramasinghe, how should I say this? Maybe because he was a graduate student of Fred Hoyle, then maybe that's kind of, I mean, that could be one of the factors. Um, but that would be unfair if that were to be the case. Because I don't know if, like, I don't know much about the history of Fred Hoyle, but every theory needs to, basically you do an experiment, right? You do experiments in order to be able to refute or see if the experiment needs the theory that has been put forward. So, and the same should happen in every situation, in most situations, I would think, as long as there's some credible evidence that, or some model that posits that this could be true. Yeah, that's why you do experiments. Another reason could be like maybe Dr. Vikramasinghe's view is like he kind of talks about the Vedic text kind of have this perspective, if lack of a better, like I hope my words are not misconstrued, but like the Vedic text have this perspective of a cyclical universe as opposed to the the theory of the Big Bang. So that could be another reason why some of his theories are not taken seriously. Another reason yet is he recently proposed, he did a research paper highlighting that uh, octopus may actually be alien, like some kind of alien DNA somehow got merged with some life form, maybe on Earth or something to that effect. I can't do justice because I haven't read that research paper. So I don't know what the paper suggests, what the math, like what the evidence is, and how the wider uh, scientific community actually responded to something like that, and why, right? And the why really matters. And I don't know if this is a good point, but Dr. Avi Loeb brought forth a uh, this is another topic. But when he was researching Oumuamua, I think that's how you write it, Oumuamua, he put forward some theories saying, or maybe data to say this doesn't make sense, you know. So I think he said, I think he spoke to some fellow scientists, and their response was something along the lines of, "That must not be true." So I can't do justice because I feel like I'm not. But basically, what should have happened in that case is that we should have, at least in an ideal situation, spend the money and done the work in order to say that, hey, look, the next time this happens again, we want to land some probe here. Okay, we want to land some probe here because this could be huge. You know, it's great from Rendezvous drama actually. We want to land some probe here. Rendezvous drama was a manned kind of mission. Well, land a probe on these things at the very least. Dig a core, sample, do something, right? Within reason to be able to figure out what this thing is. Provide like the question is, if it is indeed an alien spacecraft, as Dr. Avi Loeb suggests, then or some kind of craft or something like that, then if you dig cores in it, then it may get angry. So there are all these questions too, right? What do you do? So anyway, so but this basically like some scientists were like, oh, it doesn't meet our basically it seemed a little from my perspective a little dogmatic. Some of the other scientists were saying it doesn't meet some of our way of thinking. So it's the quote was something like somebody said here, this is making me uncomfortable or something like that. But well, I think the reason we do science is to learn more about ourselves and our place in the universe. So just because some evidence doesn't meet your way of thinking or way of how you look at the universe, that I mean, hey, I'll just leave it at that. Uh, but to come back to Dr. Vikramasinghe, um, yeah, I think it could be a combination of these things. Um, and let's be 100% honest. I think also uh, some of his writings seem to be like he talks about colonialism. I don't know if I'm going to post this video, but I think I'm going to share this directly with Dr. Vikramasinghe, see what his perspective. But I think because of his views on colonialism, I don't know the history of colonialism, and I don't know the different points of view or viewpoints, but that could be a reason why maybe like that could be a reason. Anyways, I gotta stop this video. These are some of my thoughts, and I'm gonna go eat food now. Have a nice day.